President Joe Biden will deliver his State of the Union. It will most likely not be truthful. It's going to be seen through a pair of glasses that would make John Connolly blush. Rose-colored glasses that doesn't reflect reality. I thought I would give you my State of the Union that reflects the reality of the United States of America. My State of the Union focuses on 5 points. 5 points of light or despair, but 5 points of reality for the U.S. Number 1, we have to come to grips with our racial reckoning. We need to see the light morally, philosophically, and foundationally. That is the United States of America. Critical race theory is not simply being taught in law school. Critical race theory is an ideology that forces at the forefront the human being to see himself through the prism of identity. Where once we said, I want to be seen for my character, I want to be judged for my individuality, we now require of each other to see ourselves through the most shallow of prisms, through skin color, or sexuality, or vague concepts of gender. We seem to be nothing more than our identity. No bundle of virtues, no merit, no history of action. We are simply our identity. It's a cancerous poison on the spirit of America, and it's the antithesis of our founding. The United States of America was a unique experiment in human history, one founded through the Enlightenment and Renaissance, arriving in England with the formation of the Magna Carta, and finally being enshrined with the Constitution and Declaration of Independence of the United States of America in understanding the dignity and individual rights of the human being as an individual. We have to get back to understanding that fact so that we don't regress towards the story of humanity, which is tribalism, and once again aspiring to see each other as individuals. Abraham Lincoln once said that a house divided cannot stand. America, like a quickly multiplying cell inside the human body, is dividing and multiplying on an exponential level. We are in an almost real-time moment in history where we can see the American people dividing amongst themselves, dividing upon every line, and totally forgetting the one that unifies us as individuals, the tribe of Americanism. We've also divided ourselves from reality. Second, there has to be a national reckoning now with COVID. We have been peddled, we have been manipulated into, for the better part of 3 to 5 years, a false reality. Not exclusively, but primarily driven by propaganda around COVID. We've been told lies about vaccines. We've been told lies about masks. We've been told lies about lockdowns. We've been told lies about the lethality of COVID. We have actually scared people into staying into their homes and only venturing forth with masks and gloves, wiping down what they eat with Lysol wipes. We have been created, we have been formed, we have been shaped, we have been manipulated into a false reality. We see it. We know it. We can see the story play out in the Twitter files, which gets no coverage from the major propaganda machine that is the vast majority of mainstream media. We see how our thoughts were regulated, who was turned down, who was turned up, what was turned off in the Twitter files. We don't know anymore, as a product of this, what is a woman. We are literally in a point in history where we cannot define, and people in all seriousness and earnestness, an attempt at empathy won't define something that is reality and true. What is a woman? By extension, you know what is scary? We can no longer define what is a man. We can't define what are the virtues, the embodiment, the behaviors that are expected of a man. And if we're that divorced from reality, where we no longer morally know what is a man, and no longer scientifically know what is a woman, and no longer in practicality can ascertain reality, we're lost. We're not in the United States. We're in the Matrix. And we won't ever take the red pill, exit the Matrix, back into reality to save the United States of America until we have a reckoning on COVID. Number 3, we can talk philosophically, and we should, because I truly think the problems that face America today are spiritual as much as they are economic, practical, everyday reality. But don't let us forget that for vast majority of us, politics is your pocketbook. Politics is your day. And politics has a practical application to the lives of people. Right now, people just don't buy, can't buy, don't have as much as they once did. Eggs, meat, gasoline, whatever it may be. Inflation is sitting at 6.5%. We're talking about, and that's come down a slight amount. But I spent some time this weekend on Fox and Friends talking to a panel of voters, one of which described herself as the working poor. You want to tell me about job numbers? You want to tell me about GDP? She tells me how she can't buy anything at the grocery store, how she can't feed her family. And the scary part of this is, in order to tame inflation, we're probably going to have to force ourselves into a recession in 2023. Interest rates are on the rise, and don't know when they will slow, because we don't know when we can slow inflation. Once the recession takes in, then unemployment rises. The worst of all scenarios is, what if we have a recession, rising unemployment, and inflation? The state of the economy is precarious. Everyone you talk to, from the person on the street to actually the Wall Street financier, everyone feels like this economy is sitting on a razor's edge, that at any moment it could fall. Point number 4, international relations. We should begin every calculus when it comes to the U.S. dealing with a foreign power through the prism of one question. Does this serve America first? That's the only question that I've asked when it comes to Ukraine. It's not really about the moral clarity of one side versus the other. There isn't a lot of moral clarity in war, whether or not that be Russia or Ukraine. The question is, in what way and to what extent does it impact the United States of America? To take this full circle, that question cannot be removed from the potential corruption of the leaders of the United States of America. If it is true that the dysfunctional family is the Bidens, is one that took corrupt money from powers where we're now involved militarily, I'm skeptical that the decisions being made serve America first. The same with China. I can talk about predictions of 2025 or 2027. I can even talk about China's invasion of Taiwan, but I think the case has to be made by American leaders were that to happen. And I know the argument. I know about semiconductors. But I want a rigorous debate. I want a rigorous analysis. I want every step of the way. And most importantly, when it comes to war, to be asking the question, I'm going to sacrifice American lives? I'm going to sacrifice American treasure? I'm going to sacrifice American time? Does it serve America first? Almost invariably, when we elect a president based upon what he will do internationally in foreign affairs. Such is the nature of circumstance. You don't get to dictate what will happen. So we elect leaders based upon how they prepare and how they react. So here's one that I would like to see a leader focused on. Mexico. 250,000 encounters in the month of December, an absolute record at the southern border. We're sitting on a ticking time bomb. Oh, we've talked about the cultural changes of importing a city the size of Waco every month. Yes. But what about the terrorists? The people on the terror watch list? What happens when something happens inside the United States of America? Something horrific. We're going to look back on this time, on this moment, almost assuredly, at how they got into this country. We're going to say, how could we have let it go like this? How could we have let this flood into our country? What more? You want a bigger question? How are we going to deal with Mexico over the long term? Mexico can't do much to stop this. They're not doing anything to stop the drug cartel's involvement. They're not doing anything to stop the fentanyl coming into our country. Is Mexico a narco state? And if Mexico is a corrupt narco state, how can it be redeemed? You want to talk about serving the American interest? How about dealing with a corrupt narco state as our neighbor, much less what's happening in Eastern Europe? We're going to have to figure out, because it will impact America first, the future of our relationship with Mexico. While those 4 points are something that I would hope that an American leader could devote focus, I'll end on this 5th point. I think there is always hope. I'm not a pessimist. I'm truly not. And a lot of these points and a lot of conversation when it comes to politics and news often comes off as negative. I'm not a pessimist. I'm an optimist. I am an optimist, and I have hope for the United States for this reason. I believe in the people of the United States as individuals. I think you do too. When people are involved in their own lives, their own families, their own communities, they're so rarely liberal, progressive, conservative. They're simply members of their community. They're individuals that respond to their call by their conscience or their God. They step up for one another. America is the place of pioneers pushing west, of entrepreneurs starting new businesses, of risk tolerance. America is the place of cowboys and exploration, of vigorous, can-do individualism, rugged individualism of Theodore Roosevelt. You see it abstractly. You see it in our history books when told properly. You see it in your neighbor, and you see it in your own life choices. That is an unending well of hope. I think we should always hope to find the right leader, but I think we can even find more hope in being the right leader in our household, in our community, in our own life. That right there will always be, for me, it always has been. When I'm talking about entrepreneurship, small businesses, explorers, community. It's always been the source of what it means to be an American, and that is the source of hope. Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain Podcast for full episodes right now.